calling for me. She's calling. Exiled in Babylon, all alone. It's coming to me.
Shema Yasha'Allah Ahaya Alahaya Nawa Ahaya Akkad.
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 Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one.
Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. Shalom, brothers and sisters. I am Elder Ricard Shar of the Gathering of Christ Church here this Sabbath, along with Elder Lawyer. And welcome to our Gathering of Christ Church weekly Sabbath lesson. What is the name of this lesson? Now, a matter of fact, let me title this: The Moabite Stone and the Name of the Most High. The Moabite Stone and the Name of the Most High. Now let me tell you right off why I'm preferencing this particular lesson this Sabbath. Well, read Romans 10 and 13.
Romans chapter 10, verse 13.
Now we come through the volume of the book from Genesis to Revelation, right? Romans 10 and 13 reads what?
For whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved.
For whosoever shall call upon the name singular of the Lord shall be saved. Go on.
Verse 14. How then shall they call on him in whom they have not believed?
Hold up. How can you call on a God whom you have not believed? So the Most High is making it clear that he has one name. So Paul came when he was teaching after Christ's ministry, said, whoever called on the name of the Lord shall be saved. But how can you what? Read.
How shall they believe in him on whom they have not heard?
How can you believe in him of whom you have not heard? Read. So someone has to present the name of God to you. It's important because Satan has many names, but not the Most High, not the God of all gods. There's only one name of the Most High. Read.
And how shall they hear without a preacher?
And how shall they hear without a preacher? Now, this is saying two things, that the Most High only have one name, and his name would be preached through the gospel. So for those who don't believe in Christ, these particulars would not present the name of the Most High. Predominantly, we're talking about Jewish people, because the name would be reinstated through the gospel. Paul came after the gospel of Christ. He was baptized into Christ's ministry. See? Read. So what's happening here? The Israelites fell in the old covenant. Christ came to bring a new covenant. And through that, he revealed or restored the name that was given. Okay. Most people out there, like Christians, not just the name, but the Most High true intent with his people. A lot of Christians out there believe that when Christ came, he came to change the Old Testament, or how we followed in the Old Testament. No, our people went off from the God that delivered them, or that delivered us out of Egypt. Christ came to restore that, to restore the throne of David like it was before it was tainted by us, our people. Right? So listen to this. How does this equate to the name? I'm going to show you. Read it.
Verse 15. And how shall they preach except they be sent?
How shall someone preach the name except they be sent by the Most High? Read.
As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of them that preach the gospel of peace and bring glad tidings of good things.
Look at that. So what's tied to the name, the gospel of Christ? The name that would be revealed. The name that came to Moses before Israel's deliverance. Read it again, Romans 10 and 13.
For whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved.
Period. See? Right? So it would be in this government's interest and those that are ruling interest to do what? To dissuade us from the power and the importance of the Most High's name. Now, there's no question out there anywhere that the Gathering of Christ Church taught years ago, and if you haven't seen it, go see it. The true name of the Most High, and it was never changed once. The video still stands and cannot be refuted. Right? Now, why can't it be refuted? Well, when you go into the Hebrew, the Most High's name is clear. Ahia, Ashar, Ahia. That's what came out of his mouth. And guess what? No one can dispute that. We've sat with Jewish scholars, and they can't refute it. Okay? Matter of fact, they don't try to refute it. Okay, good question. Okay, what is the name of God? What's the true name of God? Okay, let me answer that real quick.
You want me to answer that question? Yeah, you want me to?
Well, we got two guests. We have Nate. Yeah, go ahead.
Nathan. There's many references into the Bible. He's called Elohim, El Shaddai. There's many different names.
But what is his name? What is the name?
Sorry?
What is the name?
I'm not allowed to say God's name, unfortunately. It's from the Bible, so I'm not allowed to say it.
Are you going to say Yahweh?
I'm not allowed to say it.
If you were allowed to say it, would you say Yahweh?
Well, it's one of his names, yeah. It's quite a few.
Would you say that?
Sorry?
Would you? He's
Yud,
one.
K,
Okay.
Vav,
Okay.
K.
No. Hold up, brother. Hold up, brother. I need you to relax for a second because here's a teaching moment. I'm going into the Torah. Okay, go ahead. Well, brother, he can't answer it because he said he can't say it. So since he can't say it, I know other people want to know who should they pray to. So it's our job to give you.
I'm not allowed to say his name in vain. I'm allowed to say his name when I'm praying. I'm allowed to say his name when obviously I'm reading Jewish texts. But I'm not allowed to say his name in vain just by saying his name.
Okay.
Because God is precious.
Okay, well, I'm going to say it. Give me Exodus, the 3rd chapter, real quick.
Actually, there's about, there's a whole load of different names of God.
Well, I'm going to actually go where a specific question is asked concerning his name. This is the only place in the Bible in which the Most High answered that specific question. Let's go to Exodus, the 3rd chapter.
You're going to use that one? Come on.
Well, since you don't want to use any of them, brothers,
Sorry?
the people
I'm not allowed to, but you are, so it's
Thank
okay.
you. Thank you, brother.
But just don't forget, there's other names
Hey,
of God.
brother, this is what Jews do. I'm going to show
Sorry?
you what Jews do.
What do you mean?
I'm going to show you.
Jews do. You are a Jew, so what you're saying?
I'm
Jews do.
going to show you. This
Say what your people do. Don't say Jews do.
Hey,
say what your people do.
brother,
Come on, say what your people do.
Brother, I'm a Jew, brother.
Yes, so say what your people. Don't say what the
This
Jews
is what
do.
Jews
say
do.
what your people do. Be kind about your people.
I'm kind.
Good. Don't say they're Satan.
This is what
You're
Israelites
talking about your own people.
No, here's a
Yeah, you
difference.
are. You are.
I'm gonna show you what I'm
Sorry,
talking about.
Don't be hypocritical.
Thank you, brother.
No problem, brother.
Let me give you Exodus the
Is it
third chapter
Exodus
real quick.
chapter 3?
I'm gonna get it there. I need you to read. Hey, read the 13th verse for me real quick.
The book of Exodus, chapter 3, verse 13.
Yes.
And Moses said unto God, Behold, when I come unto the children of Israel,
When I come unto the children of Israel, Yasha Allah,
and shall say unto them, The God of your fathers have sent me unto you,
go ahead.
and they shall say to me, What is his name?
What is his what?
What is his name?
What is his name? Read.
What shall I say unto them?
Go ahead.
And God said unto Moses, I am that I am.
I'm what?
I am that I am.
I am that I am.
And he said, Thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, I am have sent me unto you.
Now, what I'm going to do so no one can say that we're mistranslating this, I'm going to the Tanakh. I'm going to read the exact same question that Moses had. Because up until this time, he was only known as the Almighty God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay? Hey, brother, just relax real quick.
I mean,
All right.
God, you've forgotten about Genesis.
Okay.
Genesis, how many times God's mentioned?
Okay.
Come on.
Here we go.
It's ridiculous. I'm sorry.
He said he couldn't answer, and he's going to try to stop me from answering. Now, let me read this. The God of your fathers has sent me unto you. I'm in the Tanakh now, the JPS Tanakh. What is his name, shall I say unto them? And God said to Moses, Aye, Ashar Aye. He continued, Thou shalt you say to the Israelites, Aye, sent me to you. Now that's how you say it in the modern day English. But in the Hebrew, it says Al Maishah, which is Moses, Ahaya, Ashar, Ahaya in the ancient Phoenician. Ahaya, Ashar, Ahaya, Wa Amal Ka. So this is letting us know that the name was given to Israel is Ahaya in the ancient Phoenician, Ashar, Ahaya. That is the name of God Almighty. That's the God of our fathers. See? Now, where it showed the people who were shook the most in the presentation of the name is our people, the Israelites, who were all calling on the Tetragrammaton given to them by Jewish people. Okay? And in the end times, it wouldn't be the Jewish peoples, the Satanists, the atheists revealing the Most High's name. It will be those who are tied to the gospel of Christ. The reality is we receive Yahweh, Jehovah, the Tetragrammaton from Jewish people. Because why? They're Satanist at the core. They're Babylonian worshipers. They worship the ancient gods of Canaan. Without telling you, we presented that. Now today we're going to prove what we have to say. We're going to confirm the name of the Most High today. See, we don't have to go into any secular history to try to prove the Most High's name. Right? We don't. It's simple. Look how simple it is for us. Now you have everyone else try to let me go into this record. Let me go into these scrolls. Let me go here. The Most High, Yahweh, is written thousands of times in the Bible. But it wasn't mentioned when the Most High told Moses his name. The only place where it's recorded in the Bible where the Most High revealed his name himself is in Exodus. Right? So let's get that real quick. All right? Stick with me. The name of this topic, the Moabite stone, and the name of the Most High. Okay? And you will know in a minute why I'm prefacing or titling titling it this way in a minute. Why it's being titled, this way in a moment. Right? Read, Elder Lawyer.
Exodus chapter 3, verse 13. And Moses said unto the Most High, Behold, when I come unto the children of Israel, and shall say unto them, The God of your fathers have sent me unto you.
Yes.
And they shall say to me, What is his name?
They shall say unto me, What is his name? Now, if the name isn't important, okay, why did Moses start his conversation off with the Most High there and asking his name? What shall I present to my people? In Egypt, many gods are worshipped. We all know that that the Egyptians dealt with polytheism, or an old form of paganism, the worship of many gods, right? So Moses is before the Most High and asking, okay, what is your name? My people, when I go back to my people, they're going to say, okay, the God of Abraham sent you to us, but who is he? What is his name? Right? Read.
Verse 14. And the Most High said unto Moses, I am that I am.
I am that I am. That's the Most High doing what? Answering Moses concerning his name. Okay. Period. The Most High Moses didn't ask the Most High, well, can you give me a representation of your name in the first or second person, or this or that, how these others are trying to explain off. He just asked the Most High, can you give me the name to take back to our people so they'll know which God or what God is saving them from the hands of the Egyptians, and so that we can worship and sacrifice to that God once freed? See? Quite simple. I am that I am. Right? Now, this is also written in where? The Torah. The Torah. See? Let's get it out of the Torah, Elder Lawyer. So that every Hebrew out there can read it themselves. The Most High is not saying my name is Ahiah, but y'all can call me Yahweh. See? And that's the deception that's going on amongst our people, that started from the Jewish people. I'm going to break it down to you. I'm going to show you. That's the deception that's that's been germinating amongst Hebrews or Israelites. The fact that they know they're Hebrews, but don't want to let go a name that was delivered to them through deception. Okay? Let's read it. Now, we're in the Torah, folks.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
And I'll start at verse 14.
Yes.
Waya Amar Alahayim, and God said, Al-Mashah unto Moses, Ahaya Ashar Ahaya, I am that I am.
That's in the Hebrew, right? Now, check this out. Read it on the other side of the Torah here.
Yes, sir. From verse 14. And God said to Moses, Eye, Asher, Eye, or, as we would say, Ahaya, Ashar, Ahaya.
Keep on.
He continued, Thus shall ye say to the Israelites, Eye, or Ahaya, sent me to you.
Come on.
And God said further unto Moses, Thus shall ye speak to the Israelites, the Lord God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, have sent me unto you. This shall be my name forever.
How long?
This shall be my name forever.
How long?
This shall be my name forever.
This is in the Torah, folks. So don't tell me the Jewish people don't know the Most High's name. They know. A few weeks ago, the Pope came out and said he's going to eventually reveal the name of God after years of pushing a tetragrammaton down our throats, because it's synonymous with Jehovah. Jehovah is synonymous with Jovi. Jovi in the Latin tongue is Zeus, folks. It's Jupiter. It's Jupiter, and it's synonymous with what? Zeus. And different pagan pantheons when it comes to the Latin. Jovi is Zeus. Jovi is Jehovah. Jehovah is synonymous with Yahweh. Yahweh was and is the God of the Canaanites. And we're going to prove it today. See? Now, if you haven't already, you're fairly new or whatever the case is, I need you all to go to our titled video, The True Name of the Most High. See, I don't have to I don't have to go into any secular history or anything to show you the Most High's name. I've just showed it to you. See how quick that was? Now, why am I going here? Right? Real quick. And I wouldn't say it's entirely younger brothers and sisters' fault who seek in truth today. It's not their fault. Okay? But they have to be careful, like I've mentioned over and over again. Okay? They may run into these brothers or Israelites. And mind you, our lesson tomorrow in the academy is Israelite doctrine. And I'm going to touch on this tomorrow also. A lot of brothers don't know out there, and sisters don't know, that these Israelites and all that you may see on the corners are splintered from different groups. Okay? Be it Great Millstone, like the one I'm just mentioning. You have a splinter from Great Millstone somewhere who don't even realize that he's just a product of something splintered and splintered after that. Okay? I was there in the 90s. Okay, I have the history on Yahweh. I have the history on Jehovah. I once believed that was the name of God. Okay, I was a general in all that before it was a Great Millstone, before it was Israeli Church of UPK. Okay, when it was Israeli School of Universal Practical Knowledge, I was there. 92, 93. The turn of 92, the beginning of 93 is when I began. And I was there, okay, all the way up until 2001. So I'm not speaking from some YouTube proselytizing like a lot of these brothers who learn from GMS on YouTube and believe they know something. Okay. Or learn from Israelite United or whoever and think they know something. I was there before there was a YouTube, and I was there before all these groups were splintered all over the place. Now, here's the issue. Getting back to the point why I titled this, The Moabite Stone. Okay? In the name of the Most High. This is why I titled it this way, brothers and sisters. You got a lot of younger brothers and sisters who may run into these people. And immediately, if they know that that person are learning from the church, they'll focus on dissuading them from the Most High's name automatically. To do what? So they can put out there as if they're dealing with an authority of the gathering of Christ church. Okay? And what they'll do is they'll mention stuff like, well, have you heard about the Moabite stone? Knowing that the majority of people haven't heard about a Moabite stone. You're in captivity. Okay? You're in slavery. So you run into somebody and they seem hype or deep because they talking about a Moabite stone. But you don't have the history and the understanding of that particular artifact. Okay? So breaking this down real quick, they'll mention something. Just say if a gatherer of Christ church or someone who only learning for a year or 3 or 4 months. They never learned historical facts and all that under the church. They just learned through the website or going on YouTube, having us breaking down certain things concerning what we deal with every day. One would have to have been in the church a long time and grounded, along with a body, to actually get access to the artifacts and the historical records we have. Guess what, brothers and sisters? I can't show you right now because I don't want to turn this camera. I don't have a cameraman in front of me. But I'm looking at a library adjacent to me, books stacked 5 feet high of nothing but historical facts. Okay? And I'm saying that because what they'll do is, if a young brother come in or a young sister come up to one of these brothers and just say, yeah, I've been learning on the Gathering of Christ Church, automatically they'll get a camera and begin to film a younger person who is not that grounded, so that they can try to get some type of notoriety, knowing the notoriety and how the Gathering of Christ Church is widely respected. So automatically they'll do that to try to gainsay someone, to say they took down the Gathering of Christ Church. Now, you would never see us do that to any of these other groups because we don't even want to give them that type of attention. You notice I haven't even mentioned the brother's name. I don't even know the brother. Only thing I know is that he's a remnant of the great millstone. Okay. But all in all, I'm here to break it down for you today. Okay. And again, Elder Lawyer and myself were speaking today. Brothers and sisters, you have to be very careful going up to these brothers who are on the street, because you're not as learned as they are. And if you were learned as they are, it's their microphone, their camera. They can edit how they want. They have the upper ground. Okay. So just leave these people alone on the street. You don't need to even deal with these guys. You already realize they're dealing with an heretical doctrine. There's no need to even engage these people. Okay. We're here to teach the gospel, the truth, to the masses. Those guys have seen my videos. They have seen the truth, but yet they deny the Most High's name. What else is it to say? But they're there to try to get brownie points off of you because they're not recognized like that. Okay. So that's why the only reason I'm going into this is because I've seen this on more than one occasion where these guys will seek out a brother or sister who are not that learned to try to get some notoriety on YouTube and title it Gathering of Christ Church, knowing that the person is still in a learning process. Okay. I would never do that. You know how many brothers I know who have called me from the other groups and all this and have done all that. And not once did I record them and try to break them down and say, I'm taking down this group, showing you this group don't know this or don't know. I'm like, listen, I don't even want to hear what you're talking about if you come from another group. Okay. Leave that there. Okay. Deal with your ties, tie that up over there. And if you want to come over here, that's fine. But you're going to have to come like a brand new baby and learn again. I don't even want to hear what's going on over there. We have work to do. Okay. Are you following me here? Right? So I'm going here because it's mentioned that in the Moabite stone, now this don't have nothing to do with really beyond that guy, but the Jewish people were using this for years. The Moabite stone to claim this is one of the historical records to prove Yahweh is the name of God, because it's written in ancient historical records, 9th century BC, and it's one of the older records with Yahweh in it. And you know what? This is what I'll say. I give full respect to the archaeology of the Moabite stone. Because why? It's chronologizing history that atheists are claiming today didn't exist. that scientists claim today didn't exist. So when you go to the Moabite stone, it gives you an archaeological fact that's linked directly to the Old Testament, which gives the Bible its credibility historically. So I have respect for the Moabite stone. But we need to break it down truthfully and historically. Just because a record got Yahweh in it doesn't mean that's the Most High's name. Let me make it clear. You have to go into the narrative and the time frame and the information that's written on the Moabite stone. See, it's a low level to look at a historical piece and say, well, Yahweh there, that's God's name, without giving anyone anywhere the backdrop and the story behind the Moabite stone. Well, that's what we're going to do for you today. Right? Because then you ask them people, like you ask the same person or ask people out there, give me the story of the Moabite stone. Who was the king of Moab? What was the backdrop? What was the war? What's the time period? Right? Because that's what we really need to be looking into historically. And then it clears up when you do that the name of God and why the Israelites began to call on Yahweh. Okay? Began to call on Yahweh and Baal at this same time period. So if they are worshiping the name of a Moabite god, they will inscribe the name of that god. See that? Are you following me here? So we're not denying that Yahweh is written there. What we're telling you is our people at this time, the kings, were worshiping Satan. Is that? So let's go to the historical backdrop of the Moabite stone. Right? It's called, in history, in scientific circles, the Mesha stele. The Mesha stele. Right? Now, read that for me real quick, Elder Lawyer. The Mesha stele.
Right. The Mesha stele, or the Mesha stele,
Stele, yeah.
also known as the Moabite stone, is a stele, or inscribed stone, set up around 840 BCE by King Mesha of Moab.
King Mesha of Moab. Read.
A kingdom located in modern Jordan. Mesha tells how Chemosh, the god of Moab, had been angry with his people and had allowed them to be subjugated to Israel. But at length, Chemosh returned and assisted Mesha to throw off the yoke of Israel and restored the lands of Moab. Mesha described his many building projects. Some say it is written in the Phoenician alphabet, but others say it is written in the Old Hebrew script, which is closely related. The stone was discovered intact by Friedrich Augustus Klein, an Anglican missionary at the site of ancient Dibon, now Dibon, Jordan, in August 1868.
Now I need you to hold that real quick. Let me read this. Bible artifacts found outside the trench, the Moabite stone. Now let me read this real quick. The 3-foot high basalt Moabite stone was first brought to the attention of scholars in 1868 by Bedouin living east of the Jordan River. So the Bedouins had access to this information or found the information. Now, mind you, I've been to the east, the deserts of Egypt. I've been into those areas. And guess what? I've met Bedouins. I've sat at meat with Bedouins. Okay, so this is not a thing where I'm talking about something and haven't been over there in relation to understanding that climate, the environment, and the people. So you get our people over here who haven't traveled anywhere, who the most they know about the Moabite stone or any historical history would be online. So you get somebody, yeah, you know about the Moabite stone? And you have someone who just started, probably didn't even learn any biblical history in church, sitting there looking at, well, I know that the Gathering of Christ Church says his name is Ahiah because it was shown in the Torah. But yeah, that's deep. You got some about the Moabite stone. And it automatically make everyone out there believe that this particular person have some level of authority or schooling or understanding. Okay. Now, when it comes to the Moabite stone, it's chronicling history of King Mesha, who was at war with the children of Israel in the 9th century. Okay, in the 9th going into the 8th century, the turn of the 9th century, BC, before Christ. Now, something was going on at this period. Israel was being broken into two, and the northern kingdom, Israel, was worshiping Baal. So let's get the backdrop of this story. Okay, let's go into what's written on the Moabite stone. Let's go to Kings. 2 Kings, the 3rd chapter.
2 Kings chapter 3 verse 1.
Come on.
Now Jehoram, the son of Ahab, began to reign in Israel in Samaria the 18th year of Jehoshaphat.
Now, when it says reign over Israel, brothers and sisters, okay, this is calling it Israel because at this time Israel is split in two. Okay, Israel is the northern kingdom of the 10 tribes. Judah is the southern kingdom. The kingdom was split after the sin of Solomon, where Solomon began to deal with all these different women and brought in what? Canaanite and ancient Egyptian worships into the land of Israel and built towers to Chemos and all that and began to sacrifice to Baal. Because of this, the kingdom was split in two. See, we need to understand this history because now we're reading about a God outside of the God who established David. Are you following me here? The majority of you out there who found out you're Israel, you look at the slave ships and all these things, and yes, we are the Israelites, but that's just the surface of it. Okay? You have to realize what led to the slave ships, what led to the captivity, the dispersion of the 10 tribes, because we began to worship another God. Okay, so that's the backdrop there. The kingdom is split. So when it's speaking of Israel here in Samaria, it's speaking of a time in which after the kingdom was split and Israel was worshiping Satan. The northern kingdom. Israel is the northern kingdom here. Read.
Verse 2. And he wrought evil in the sight of the Lord, but not like his father and like his mother. For he put away the image of Baal that his father had made.
So his father, it tell you, Jehoram, the son of Ahab, reigned over Israel and put away what?
The image of Baal.
The image of Baal, which was brought into Israel to be worshipped. Read.
That his father had made.
That his father had made. Now let's deal with that image of Baal real quick, if we may. Right? Let's now, elder lawyer, deal with that image of Baal. Let's go into when the Most High says, you shall no longer call me Baali.
Hosea chapter 2. I'll start in verse 13.
Hosea 2 and 13.
And I will visit upon her the days of her Baalim.
Now we know Hosea is breaking down. He was from the northern kingdom. Hosea. So eventually the Most High would take his spirit, and through his spirit will begin to recover some of the 10 tribes. But in order to do that, he would need to knock down the images and the gods and the ideologies that they took on. Through Christ, he would do this. So listen here.
Wherein she burnt incense to them, and she decked herself with her earrings and her jewels, and she went after her lovers, and forgat me, saith the Lord. Jumping to verse 16.
So we forgot, or the 10 tribes, Israel, forgot the Most High, right? Now we know the name of the Most High was revealed to all 12 tribes. But the 10 tribes forgot the name of the Most High. Read.
Verse 16. And it shall be at that day, saith the Lord, that thou shalt call me Ishi.
He says, thou shalt call me Ishi, which is husband. You'll be married back to me, like before the fall. Read.
And shall call me no more Baali.
And shall call me no more Baali. Baal. Now, it shows here, 2 Kings 3:1, that Jehoram, the son of Ahab, began to reign over Israel in Samaria. And it goes down here and it tells us, and he wrought evil in the sight of the Most High, but not like his father. So he was wicked, but not like his father and like his mother. For he put away the image of Baal that his father had made. So what can we see here? What do we know here? That the kings of Israel began to call on Baali. And it's also prophesied that the Most High would take that name, that image, that worship from amongst, that idolatry from amongst the 10 tribes. You shall no longer call me Baali. So you're not calling me the name that was given to Moses. Now let's break down Baali real quick. Elder Lawyer, let's get Baali out of your Strong's Concordance real quick and give us the number of Baali.
Baali in the Strong's Concordance is H1180.
H1180 in the Hebrew, right? H1180 in the Hebrew is Baali. Now check this out, folks. Read it, Elder Lawyer.
Baali, H1167, which is Baal, with pronominal suffix, which is Yah, meaning my. Baali, a symbolical name for Jehovah.
A symbolical name for Jehovah. So you will no longer call me Jehovah, but Ishi. Now keep that real quick, Elder Lawyer. Jehovah in English is the tetragrammaton Yahweh. So was the kings of Israel worshiping and inscribing Baali? Yes, they were. Okay, we have proof they were, but that's not the name of the Most High. Were they worshiping Baali? Yes, but they were doing what? They were equating Baali worships under who? Under Israel, or the God of Israel. So they began to keep some of the practices and ceremonies, but now they began to use Baali instead of the Most High. See that? Are you following me here? Now, Baali is Jehovah. Jehovah is the tetragrammaton Yahweh. Okay? Are you following me here? So if you find Yahweh in its inscription with the 10 tribes in any historical record, it doesn't mean that's the Most High's name. It's related to the God we were worshiping at that time. Are you following me here? Now let's go back to 2 Kings, the 3rd chapter. And I'm going to give you more proof. There's more proof.
One more point in 2 Kings or Salakia, Hosea 2 in the second chapter.
Yes, anything you got, bring it out.
Yes, sir. Hosea chapter 2, verse 16.
Yes.
And I'll read down to verse 17. And it shall be at that day, saith the Lord, that they shall call me Ishi,
They shall call me Ishi,
and shall call me no more Baali.
and shall no longer call me what?
Baali.
Baali. So we're not saying the Israelites didn't call on Yahweh. They did. But the Most High said now, and he came back and told the 10 tribes, you're not going to continue to call me that. I'm going to reveal the truth to you. The God before your fall, before your split. And that name was given to Moses, folks.
And the key point in verse 17, the reason why we will call him Ishi, which means my husband, opposed to Baali, which can be translated as my master, but we know that Baal is synonymous with the Canaanite deity.
Exactly.
Reading verse 17, it says, for I will take away the names of Baalim out of her mouth.
There you go. Shall no longer have it in our mouths. So Yahweh is not the name of God. It was in our mouths once we began to worship the Canaanite gods and the Moabite gods and the Gentile gods. We began to put those Gentile gods' names in our mouths. Are you seeing this? So, a matter of fact, we can use the Moabite stones more so to prove what we're saying, what we've been teaching for years, that Yahweh is not the name of the Most High. We can use it to prove that. I'm going to show you here. Let's go back to 2 Kings, because here's the historical information. So we can preference the time period of what? The Mesha stone. Okay? The Moabite stone. So now, brothers and sisters, when you run into these people, or if somebody mentioned it, you don't even have to deal with all the rhetoric. Because the only thing they're going into, the Moabites don't have the history, the historical fact showing his name was there. God's name. Not our God. Okay. Here's the backdrop. You take them straight to 2 Kings, the 3rd chapter. And say, well, who's this king who brought in idols, the image of Baal, and sacrifices to the image of Baal? Is that our God? Finish reading, Elder Lawyer.
Verse 3. Nevertheless, he cleaved unto the sins of Jeroboam.
He cleaved unto the sins of Jeroboam,
son of Nebat, which made Israel to sin. He departed not therefrom.
Okay, now let's go look into the sins of Jeroboam now. Right?
1 Kings 12.
Let's deal with the sins of Jeroboam. Read.
1 Kings 12 and 25. Then Jeroboam built Shechem and Mount Ephraim, and dwelt therein, and went out from thence and built Penuel. And Jeroboam said in his heart, now shall the kingdom return to the house of David. If this people go up to do sacrifice in the house of the Lord at Jerusalem, then shall the heart of this people turn again unto their Lord, even unto Rehoboam king of Judah. So in other words, we allow them to go to Jerusalem, they're going to turn back to the Most High God, the true God.
Exactly. So we're going to set this up so that they don't go to Jerusalem where the true God is being worshipped. So Yahweh was more so being promoted at what time? During the time of the split, when the northern kingdom began to set up their own priesthood and places of worship. That's when Yahweh, the name Yahweh, began to become prominent in the land of Israel. And you know, Christ said, don't go into Samaria, into those areas, because that was the God being worshiped in Samaria, folks, initially. We didn't really fall to that until what? We were taken over in Babylon. Then we began to fall to it also. Speaking of the southern kingdom, eventually it infected all of us with Yahweh in Jehovah. Okay? So when you see the word, I'm putting it out there so you all understand this, brothers and sisters. When you see the word Jehovah, that's just the Jewish tetragrammaton in English. So Jehovah Witnesses, they're worshiping Satan. If we were to translate that to the Hebrew, there would be Yahweh Witnesses or Yahweh Witnesses. See that? And we know that they're Satan's witnesses. See? Come on.
Verse 28. Whereupon the king took counsel and made 2 calves of gold.
They made what?
2 calves of gold.
So what's synonymous with Baali or Jehovah? 2 calves of gold. Y'all know the 2 calves, right? The calves in the wilderness during the time of Aaron. Yes. The northern kingdom brought that back in, and they began to worship those ancient gods that were being worshipped in Egypt. And that's why you can find the proof of Yahweh, the history of Yahweh in ancient Egypt, before the Most High revealed his name to Moses. See, that's why, because when we got in the wilderness, we say, let's sacrifice to the God of Egypt for saving us. And they made themselves 2 calves. That was Yahweh, a God that was being worshipped in Egypt, folks, by the Egyptians. Come on.
Whereupon the king took counsel and made 2 calves of gold and said unto them, It is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Behold thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. And he set the one in Bethel, and the other he put in Dan.
So 1 calf they put in Bethel, and another calf they put in Dan. 2 high places of worships for the 10 kingdoms, for the 10 tribes under the northern kingdom. Check that out. Okay, so it's disingenuous just going into and say, yeah, Yahweh name is written on the Moabite stone, without giving them the history of our people falling to that God and exalting that God as the God of Israel. See? Come on, elder lawyer.
Verse 30. And this thing became a sin, for the people went to worship before the one, even unto Dan. And he made an house.
So if they're worshiping it, are they calling the name of the Most High in equation with this worship, with this idol? Or are they calling on the God that's attached to that idol, which came in? What God are they calling on? They calling on the name that came with the idol, that came with the worships. Now, thousands of years later, we'll look at that and say, well, man, look, that must be the truth, because Israelites inscribed the name of that God. He must be true. The Most High says, you shall no longer call me Baali. Look at the word Baali. Baali is Jehovah, folks. Jehovah is the tetragrammaton Yahweh. Yahweh is the Canaanite God. And that's why we as a church, we as teachers, get the most pushback from the Hebrew community. And you know what? We don't care. We expect to. When the gospel was being taught, when Christ and the disciples were being taught, the greatest pushback from the Hebrew community was against them. Okay? And that's why Paul said, he that calleth on the name of the Lord shall be saved. But how shall you know or hear without a preacher who would reveal the name? See? So what cannot be refuted, folks, is that the fact remains in all Hebrew Torahs, the Most High says his name is Ahiah, not Yahweh. We give you the history of when Yahweh began to become a prominent God amongst the Israelites' worships and communities. You there, elder lawyer?
Yes, sir.
What else you have there?
The book of Tobit. You can finish out on
Yeah.
your own time.
Yeah.
1 Kings 12.
Finish out 1 Kings 12 in your own time. But let's now go to the book of Tobit.
Yes, sir. The book of Tobit, chapter 1, verse number 4 through 5.
Come on.
When I was in mine own country in the land of Israel, being but young, all the tribe of Naphtali my father fell from the house of Jerusalem, which was chosen out of all the tribes of Israel.
Come on.
That all the tribes should sacrifice there, where the temple of the habitation of the Most High was consecrated and built for all ages. Now all the tribes which were together revolted, and the house of my father Naphtali sacrificed unto the heifer Baal.
To the heifer Baal, the calf. The calf is Yahweh, folks. Now, if these guys run into the unlearned who haven't learned anything, or people who are just beginning to learn, of course it's going to look like they're dealing with some high level gainsaying. Okay, that's when they're going to look as if they're experts when they go deal with a person who's fairly young and is still trying to find their way, who don't even know what any archaeology is, let alone the Moabites don't. But we're giving you a time period of the Moabites don't. Okay. And what God was being worshipped in the land of Samaria. Yahweh was. Hold tight, there's more. All right, jumping right back in. What have we learned so far? That belly is equated with who? You got it. Yahweh. And that we understand in the northern kingdom that the king had an idol, or the father of the king brought in belly to be worshipped in the northern kingdom. And that's equated to what? The two calves. That was predominantly in the northern kingdom, while Judah, Benjamin, and Levi were separate in the southern kingdom. That's when Yahweh or belly came in. Okay, after the fall of Solomon. Are you following me here? Now, check this out. This is also historical record. God's goddesses, an image of God. And all through this book, it's referenced, got a stack of references this thick in the back, showing you all the Canaanite worships, Yahweh and all that, and the historical records you can find in the Mesopotamia area outside of the Hebrew Canaan to prove to you all the gods, goddesses, and images of God worshipped by Israel once we fell as a people. The references are in this book. Get this book. And Jewish people don't expect you to read this. Okay? Check out this reference. Baal, El, Yahweh, and Asherah. Listen to this. Israel, God and bull and other Baal, B-A-A-L figures. According to the Old Testament, worship of Yahweh that included the use of one or more bull calf images was the more distinctive element of the state cult in northern Israel that was established by Jeroboam after the division of the kingdoms. So even Jewish people have the history of when Yahweh or Baal came in and won't tell the population, the world, that Yahweh is actually a Canaanite god related to the bull. So Jewish people worship Yahweh outwardly. And then what's over all of their financial cities? What do they use to denote their power financially within any city? The bull. In all their financial capitals, you'll see the bull, which is synonymous with who? Yahweh, folks. Jehovah. Right? You have something, Elder Lawyer?
You can finish and then I'll read this here.
Okay. Now listen to this. If one pays careful attention to the message that was proclaimed at the sanctuaries in Bethel and Dan, the same thing you've just read, at the same time that the images of the bulls were set up, here are your gods, Israel, who brought you up from the land of Egypt. So we'll ascribe belly in our mouths, or connect belly to the God who delivered us out of Egypt instead of Ahia. Check that out. Then one can see that such activities were part of a program that was to give expression to an emancipation intended to free them concurrently from subjection both to Egypt and Jerusalem. Okay? So what did they do? They took these particular gods, these ancient gods, fused it with Israel teachings and Israel holy days and all that, and fused it and made their own religion, which is Judaism today, under that God, the God Baali, who the 10 tribes brought in. That's your modern day Judaism, folks, at its core. So we wake up, get a Torah, we see the Jewish people worshiping Yahweh and begin to immediately cleave to it. Elder Lawyer?
Yes, sir. So that pretty much segues into what I was about to read here in 2 Kings, because that amalgamation, that mixture of all those different worships that started with Jeroboam, eventually is with the nations when the Most High removed us by the hand of the king of Assyria out of the northern kingdom. The nations that were placed in the land learned those same exact practices. And as you stated, that is the foundation of what we call today, or what one would call Judaism. So this is 2 Kings chapter 17, verse 16. And they left all the commandments of the Lord their power, and made the molten images, even 2 calves, and made a grove, and worshipped all the hosts of heaven, and served Baal. And
there you go again. Baal is Yahweh, folks. Go on.
And they caused their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire, and use divination and enchantments, and ensouled themselves to do evil in the sight of the Lord, to provoke him to anger. Therefore the Lord was very angry with Israel, and removed them out of his sight. There was none left but the tribe of Judah only. And Judah kept not the commandments of the Lord their power, but walked in the statutes of Israel, which they made.
So we began to follow what they were following. I'm speaking of the southern kingdom. And began to call on Yahweh or Baal. So of course, if you are the king upholding Gentile gods and Gentile worships, what God would they inscribe on their record? They would inscribe the God that they're worshiping now, opposed to the God of Israel, the God of Moses, Abraham, and Isaac. So are you following me here? So finding Yahweh in certain places doesn't mean, folks, that that's the name that was given to Moses. That's a lie. That's a straight deception. That whole teaching that, well, no, if you can find this information amongst our people, it must be his name. Well, what name was in our mouths? Baali. Not Ahia, folks. So what would come with the gospel of Christ? You got it. The gospel of the kingdom, the name that was revealed to Moses. Come on, Elder Lawyer.
Yes, sir. Jumping to verse 21.
Come on.
For he rent Israel from the house of David, and they made Jeroboam the son of Nebat king. And Jeroboam drave Israel from following the Most High, and made them sin a great sin. For the children of Israel walked in all the sins of Jeroboam which he did, they departed not from them.
Yes.
Until the Most High had removed Israel out of his sight, and had said by all his servants the prophets. So was Israel carried away out of their own land to Assyria unto this day.
So as a result of this, Israel became desolate. As a result of this, God's people were taken out of the land because they weren't no longer calling on the true name of the Most High and worshiping what was given to Moses. So as a result of this, the Most High scattered us throughout the earth. So in our captivity, the Most High began to do what? Revive us and give us the information of ourselves. On top of that, a question came to mind. Okay, if we're the Hebrews, we're the Israelites, then who's the name of our God? And you have those who taught us, who we believe to be true. And guess what? Maybe they believed what they were teaching was true. Began to deliver to us the only records that was available at that time. The Jewish records of Yahweh. See? Let's go back real quick. Let's go back now to Kings, the 3rd chapter.
Yes, sir. 2 Kings chapter 3, verse number 3.
Because this is the chapter you can read for referencing the Moabite stone. This is the time period, and here's the history of the Moabite stone in a nutshell. Read.
Nevertheless, he claved unto the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, which made Israel to sin. He departed not therefrom.
Come on.
Verse 4. And Mesha, king of Moab.
Mesha, king of Moab. Here's the king. The Mesha stone, or the Moabite stone, is in relation to this king here, folks. Now, mind you, our people done went off here, worshiping Baal and all that. As a result of that, the Most High is sending a spirit that will weaken Israel through warfare. And Mesha, king of Moab, read,
was a sheep master, and rendered unto the king of Israel 100,000 lambs and 100,000 rams with the wool. But it came to pass when Ahab was dead, that the king of Moab rebelled against the king of Israel.
Rebelled against the kingdom, the king of Israel, read.
Verse 6. And King Jehoram went out of Samaria the same time, and numbered all Israel. And he went and sent to Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, saying, the king of Moab have rebelled against me. Wilt thou go with me against Moab to battle? And he said, I will go up. I am as thou art, my people as thy people, and my horses as thy horses. And he said, which way shall we go up? And he answered, the way through the wilderness of Edom. And the children of Israel went, and the king of Judah, and the king of Edom, and they fetched a compass of 7 days' journey. And there was no water for the host, and for the cattle that followed them. And the king of Israel said, alas, that the Most High have called these 3 kings together to deliver them into the hand of Moab. But Jehoshaphat said, is there not a prophet of the Most High, that we may inquire of the Most High by him? And one of the king of Israel's servants answered and said, here is Elisha, the son of Shaphat, which poured water on the hands of Elijah. And Jehoshaphat said, the word of the Most High is with him. So the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat and the king of Edom went down to him. And Elisha said unto the king of Israel, what have I to do with thee? Get thee to the prophets of thy father, and to the prophets of thy mother. And the king of Israel said unto him, nay, for the Most High have called these 3 kings together to deliver them into the hand of Moab. And Elisha said, as the Most High of hosts liveth, before whom I stand, surely were it not that I regard the presence of Jehoshaphat the king of Judah, I would not look toward thee nor see thee. But now bring me a minstrel. And it came to pass, when the minstrel played, that the hand of the Lord came upon him. And he said, thus saith the Most High, make this valley full of ditches. For thus saith the Most High, ye shall not see wind, neither shall ye see rain. Yet the valley shall be filled with water, that ye may drink, both ye and your cattle and your beast. And this is but a light thing in the sight of the Most High. He will deliver the Moabites also into your hand.
Come on.
And ye shall smite every fenced city and every choice city, and shall fell every good tree, and stop all wells of water, and mar every good piece of land with the stone. And it came to pass in the morning, when the meat when the meat offering was offered, that behold, there came water by the way of Edom, and the country was filled with water. And when all the Moabites heard that the kings were come up to fight against him, they gathered all that were able to put on armor and upward, and stood by in the border. And they arose up early in the morning, and the sun shone upon the water, and the Moabites saw the water on the other side red as blood. And they said, This is blood. The kings are surely slain, and they have smitten one another. Now therefore Moab to the spoil. And when they came to the camp of Israel, the Israelites rose up and smote the Moabites, so that they fled before them. But they went forward smiting the Moabites, even in their country. And they beat down the cities on every good piece of land, cast every man his stone, and filled it. And they stopped all the wells of water, and felled all the good trees. Only in Kaharseth left they the stones thereof. Howbeit, the stones thereof, or the slingers, went about it and smote it. Verse 26. And when the king of Moab saw that the battle was too sore for him, he took with him 700 men that drew swords to break through, even unto the king of Edom, but they could not. Verse 27. Then he took his eldest son that should have reigned in his stead, and offered him for a burnt offering upon the wall.
So he sacrificed his son upon the wall. This is the information you will find in the Moabite stone. Read.
And there was great indignation against Israel, and they departed from him and returned to their own land.
So when you see the Moabite stone or the Mesha stone, this is the narrative of the stone, the time period of that particular stone. It's speaking, that's why it's called the Mesha stone. Here's the king that used to pay tribute to the 10 tribes, or the king of Israel, and revolted and began to war against him. So in this record, you can find Yahweh written in the record. But what they won't tell you is that the king of Israel was worshiping Yahweh after the fall of Israel. We began to sacrifice to Yahweh, or a different god. The god of the Canaanites, the god of the Gentiles. Okay, now how do we know this? There's a god, Chemos, worshipped by the Moabites. And in relation to that, a star is the star symbolizes it. Let's get it real quick. Amos 5:26. So not only did they have the name Yahweh, which is synonymous to Baal, they had an image made to this particular God in Israel. You will never guess what that image is. Let me write it for you. In the same way he sacrificed his son in it, this was used as a practice so that we began to sacrifice our children under this image. Does this look familiar to you? Does that look familiar? That is the star that's connected with Yahweh, or Chemos. The star that's on the Jewish flag today. Let's read it. Amos 5:26.
Amos 5, I'll start in verse 25 and verse 26. Have ye offered unto me sacrifices and offerings in the wilderness 40 years, O house of Israel?
O house of Israel, read.
Verse 26. But ye have borne the tabernacle of your Moloch, and your Chayun, your images, the star of your God.
The star of your God, the 6-pointed star.
Which ye made to yourselves.
Which ye made to yourselves. And you know what? We don't altogether blame our Hebrew brothers to some degree for falling to this. Because no sooner as we began to wake up as a people, our priests, our teachers had these particular symbols. Okay, we had no idea. We didn't have the history of how these symbols became equated to the children of Israel. We did it because our teachers were doing it. Okay, we were relating our awakening to that idolatry. Automatically, those symbols must have some power if it has awakened this man to help me revive as an Israelite. But when you do the history on these particular artifacts and images and stars, it's related to a time in which satanic worships were exalted by kings within the borders of Israel. Read that again, Elder Lawyer.
Amos 5:26.
Come on.
But ye have borne the tabernacle of your Moloch in Chiyun, your images.
Your images, the 6-pointed star, folks. Read.
The star of your God.
The star of your God. Read.
Which ye made to yourselves.
Which ye made to yourselves. So what's synonymous to Yahweh or Baali or Baal? The 6-pointed star. It's all encompassed in what this world would call Judaism. What we're showing you, what we're teaching you today on this Sabbath is the beginning of the worships of Judaism. So just because the Israelites did it in the past doesn't make it right for us today. The only way we can come back or we can be delivered is now through what? Through Yeshua, through the anointed. And through the Holy Spirit, the name was revealed before deliverance, like it once was in the old time. We're at the end, and now the Most High is saying, put down all the different gods and worships. I'm the God who delivered you out of Egypt. Not the God you began to take on in the 8th century, in the 9th century BC. Solomon allowed this evil in, folks. Solomon allowed Yahweh in. Yahweh is not the God of the Hebrews. Yahweh is not the God of the Hebrews. Ahiah is. And it's written. Right? Now, let's go to Romans 10 and 13 again.
Romans chapter 10, verse 13. Whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved.
Period. Whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. Read.
How then shall they call on him in whom they have not believed?
How can you call on him in whom you've not believed? See, we've been taught all these other gods, especially by Jewish people, by Jewish rabbis who are against the anointed Messiah. Read.
How then shall they call on him in whom they have not believed? And how shall they believe in him and of whom they have not heard?
Come on.
And how shall they hear without a preacher?
How shall they hear without a preacher? Let's go back to Hosea again. So we're preaching the true gospel, the true understanding for Israel, and the Most High's true name. And here's another thing you can't fall for, brothers and sisters. Never fall for, well, you can call them that too. That's a deception. That's evil. Never fall for the second person and all this other crap they're talking. They haven't done the history because they don't want to admit they've been lied to. But we're presenting the history so that you're not trapped under their deception. If they want to believe what the Jewish people gave them, let them continue to do so. The truth been out there for a long time concerning the Most High's name. Okay? Now, the only reason I'm bringing this forth is because they're using these ad hominem attacks to try to claim it's the GOCC. And no sooner as they link into a younger brother who's still trying to learn, they begin to use that person as a stepping platform on a brother to try to gain some power over the teachings or authority, as if they can gainsay what's being taught. You can't change the name that was given to Moses. I don't care what stone you find. I don't care what artifact you look into. Okay? The only place where the Most High said his name is crystal clear, and that cannot be refuted. But if you want to go into the historical records like the Mesha stone, we can do that. But we're going to go all the way into it. We're not just going to look at a name written and say, well, because it's there, that's the name of God. Okay? That's ignorance. Okay? That's the mindset of someone who haven't even studied the record. Okay? We've been studied the record. We're bringing this to your attention because they're going to use those who learn under us, who are still learning, to try to gain some level of notoriety by titling their videos with the Gathering of Christ Church, because no one would listen to them otherwise. Okay? And that's why we mention to this, you brothers and sisters, over and over again. There's no need to sit and give these brothers any recognition. They're just happy you're looking at them because they know that you're with the church. They're just happy somebody with the church is actually going to look at them and view them, because they're attention seekers. Okay? You don't even, and not only that, they'll use you and just step over you. They don't care about you. They care about, I'm breaking down that the Most High's name can't be this. Using you as a sideways prop without even caring about your soul. Okay? Could care 2 cents about whether or not you make it. Okay? Read it, Elder Lawyer.
Hosea 2:16. And it shall be at that day, saith the Lord, that they shall call me Ishi, and shall call me no more Baali.
They shall call me Ishi, and no longer Baali, Yahweh. So yes, you'll find Yahweh in the Mesha stone. Yes, you'll find it there. Of course you're going to find it on the stone. Because at this time, our people were worshiping Baali, Yahweh. The Moabite stone would have the name that our kings brought in. Cut and dry. Look at the context of the time period of the Mesha stone, and you'll know that the 10 tribes weren't worshiping the God of Israel. They were worshiping Yahweh, Jehovah, Baali, the witch's God. Who's the witch's God? Yahweh. Look it up. That's the top of the witch's pantheon. See, we've already done the research, and folks, let me make it clear. If the Most High name was Yahweh or Yahweh, we would teach it. Why? Because the Bible says, he that called on the name of the Lord shall be saved. Why wouldn't I teach it? Okay, I would teach it. When I first learned as a Hebrew, as an Israelite, you talking about 93? When I really began to grow into it and began to learn under it? 1993? That's the only name I knew was Yahweh. My teachers gave me that, but I didn't do no historical background until years later. Like, listen, the only thing that's true here that I've learned is that the fact I'm an Israelite. Okay? And that Christ wasn't a white man. Okay? And that the Jewish people aren't the Jews. Okay? But there's much more. The gospel of Christ, the true tenets of the law according to Christ, how we should treat each other according to the Most High, the gospel of peace, The fact that as much lies life within us, we should be at peace with all people, regardless of the lies that have been taught to us. We are the light of the world. And as disciples of Christ, setting up churches and establishing the work, we must be a light to the world and bring everyone to the knowledge of truth. Okay? Destroying all imaginations that exalt itself against the power of the Most High. Casting down all imaginations. And that's why we made this video, folks. Because these people are looking for notoriety. We don't care if they're on the street trying to bring... They're just on the street talking about us. Deliver your people. Okay? Teach what you know. And stop trying to cause friction when there is no friction. We don't go looking for these people. We don't go behind everybody and say, this is what's going on with them. Or somebody come up to me and I'm trying to attack another person through using a younger brother or sister. That's evil and deceitful. And on top of that, they don't have no idea about the record they're claiming give the name of the Most High any level of reverence or relevance. No, you understand? They really have no history concerning that particular record. We do, and just gave it to you. So brothers and sisters, don't get tossed to and fro. If you see somebody speaking and these other brothers, let them go. They're going to try to use you as a prop. They're going to find out what you don't know. Why? Because you're really new in the knowledge. They're going to try to shake your faith and have you question the teachers the Most High sent before you. Because why? No one would listen to them otherwise. Okay. You're not going to get anything over there that you can get here, that you can't get here. You're going to get more than what they can teach because we were there already. We've been there already. One moment here. If it does that, it'll copy it by default, right?
Yeah, it'll save whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, stop.
Whatever was cut off?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this will be part 3 then, right?
Right.
Okay. So I'm glad we broke that down. Anything you want to speak into, Elder Lawyer? Real quick?
Not necessarily. Just building off of the back of what you just stated. Usually, and this is how you know a lot of the brothers and sisters who find themselves in these situations, they're fairly new. Understand that anyone that is seasoned, anyone that is a representative of this church, know that we don't go and chase other groups and try to battle them on the street. Why? Because we have work to do. Okay? If those people feel that they have the truth, they have found the faith of Christ, the physicians don't need a healer. So we go to those who need healing, those who need the word. Okay? So just to build upon that last statement you just made about, them using younger people.
So if you see someone trying to debate another person on the street somewhere and they title it Gathering of Christ Church, know that that person doesn't represent the authority of the Gathering of Christ Church. And it's a person that's probably fairly new, don't know as much as of yet. Okay? And that's why and it's no fault of them. They just trying to, a lot of them feel that they want to defend the truth. They want to go up to these brothers and try to defend what they know is true. But we tell them, don't do that. Stay away from those brothers. There's too many people out there who don't have any understanding at all we must get to. Ignore those brothers. Ignore them. Because they're going to find out you're with the church or have been learning in the church and automatically try to use you as a prop to try to undo cunningly the work that was established by elders. But they can't. They can't. And it's deep that they pay so much attention to us that they'll title their videos and we don't even know these people. Matter of fact, there's nothing to actually make a video on them about at all. Because I don't know these people. But all in all, when I hear that someone is trying to attach something that would try to discredit the work of Christ, then I must put out the correct information so that now they can, if that video pop up, they'll have this video and it'll all be broken down. I don't even got to speak to that brother about anything. He can go on about it. He can scurry on about his way. Okay. But the younger brother now that was in it has some information now that he can grow with. Not to go back to them with, but to confirm that that brother, you don't have to be shaken. You had the truth the whole time. And the information they gave you is further proof that God's name is not Yahweh. Okay? Let's go getting tossed to and fro real quick.
Ephesians chapter 4, verse number 14.
Yes.
That we henceforth be no more children, tossed to and fro, and carried about with every wind of doctrine, by the sleight of men, and cunning craftiness.
Read it again.
That we henceforth be no more children.
Can't be no more children. Mind you, they focus on younger brothers or sisters who haven't been in the truth. Like children. They focus on that because anyone of aged or seasoned in the word wouldn't even talk to these guys anyway. To tell you the truth. Because it's low level. It's low level. All it is about talking about the white man and trying to be provocative for attention. It's low level. Read.
That we henceforth be no more children, tossed to and fro, and carried about with every wind of doctrine, by the sleight of men, and cunning craftiness, whereby they lie in wait to deceive.
They lie in wait to do what?
To deceive.
So a lot of these brothers on the corner, they're lying in wait just so they can push the same garbage that's been discredited for over a decade now when it comes to doctrine. They shouldn't even be talking about no Moabite stone and all that. You should look into the doctrine you have learned that's incorrect. It is how you going to tell somebody about something when you're in an incorrect doctrine. They believe in reincarnation. They believe in all types of weird doctrine. They believe that Christ was born and came back five times on earth at different times. That he was Isaac. Okay. They believe Christ was reincarnated as Isaac, Melchizedek. All types of mess, folks. Are you following me here? But they'll never say that publicly. They'll get on the street and try to point out something wrong with everyone else when their doctrine is evil from at the core. Okay? They need to shut down and study their doctrine first. And these are remnants from Great Millstone. Are you kidding me? That's why I'm like, listen, I could care less about any of that. For you younger brothers, don't engage these guys. They're looking for attention, folks. And they want to use the Gathering of Christ Church in their titles to gain attention. Don't let them use you like that. Okay? Same thing. Listen, I was teaching in Chicago a few years ago. And you had some brothers months before then who engaged other brothers on the street and all that. That actually seen me teaching. But when they seen me teaching, none of them came up to me. But they want to engage the younger brothers who have learned under me to try to gain some level of credibility. When I'm on the streets, and guess what? I'll be in the streets of Detroit. I'll be in the streets. I'll be teaching. They can come up to me and ask me any question they would like. And I bet you they don't put that video up. Okay? But I'm not going to engage them. But if they come up to me with that false doctrine, it will get dealt with. And guess what? It ain't going to take long either. Because why? The doctrine they are exalting, I taught it 2 decades ago and was actually more effective than they are with it right now. Okay, so they better not come up to me with that crap. Because when I'm teaching, they come up to me with their false doctrine, It'll be cut, 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 cut. Matter of fact, I'll go to the scripture they want to go to first, and then I'll cut it and say, okay, what's the next question? All right, you can scurry up the street. Try to find some young guy who haven't learned anything. Okay? We're not dealing with it. I'll deal with their doctrine, let them scurry up the street, and continue to teach the gospel of Christ. For baptism and the preparation for the kingdom of heaven, for the brothers and sisters who would like to learn. Okay? Read it for me, Elder Lawyer.
Ephesians 4:14. That we henceforth be no more children, tossed to and fro and carried about with every wind of doctrine.
Every wind of doctrine. Look how many doctrines there is within the Hebrew community. And here it is, they want to debate the Most High's name. His name is not up for debate. He told Moses his name. Whether you hear it or forbear it, his name is Ahia. Period. Read.
And carried about with every wind of doctrine by the sleight of men and by cunning craftiness.
Cunning craftiness.
Whereby they lie in wait to deceive.
So they'll lie in the street waiting to deceive other young folk, young brothers and sisters who don't know any better. Okay? Read.
Verse 15. But speaking the truth in love may grow up unto him.
But this is how we teach the true doctrine of Christ. The true spirit of the Bible. By doing what?
But speaking the truth in love.
By speaking the truth in love. And I know they hate the fact that we speak the truth in love. Okay? We look to heal. We look to bring forth the understanding of Christ. And we teach all nations the truth concerning Christ's kingdom, Yeshua's kingdom. I know they hate that. But that's the gospel. That's the truth. That's the work. Read.
But speaking the truth in love may grow up into him in all things, which is the head, even Christ.
The head is even Christ. So let's not be like any little children being tossed to and fro in different winds of doctrine, folks. You brothers who are learning and sisters are learning under the gathering of Christ Church, leave those guys alone. Believe it. And the Bible tell you, if it's not of this gospel, this truth, it's going to come to naught anyway. Let's get that real quick. Leave them alone. Leave them alone. Okay? What they're teaching is I'm going to be honest with you folks, what they're teaching, especially these brothers that are remnants of little remnants of remnants, it's nothing that hasn't been taught already. They just trying to gain some personal attention, and it's going to come to nothing anyway. Listen. Read it.
The book of Acts chapter 5, verse number 33.
Come on.
When they heard that, they were cut to the heart and took counsel to slay them. Then stood there up one in the council, a Pharisee named Gamaliel, a doctor of the law, had in reputation among all the people, and commanded to put the apostles forth a little space, and said unto them, Ye men of Israel, take heed to yourselves what ye intend to do as touching these men.
Come on.
For before these days there rose up Theudas, boasting himself to be somebody, to whom a number of men, about 400, joined themselves, who were slain, and all as many as obeyed him were scattered and brought to naught. 37. And
they were scattered and brought to naught. Those that try to come against the gospel of the truth, the gospel of truth. So if they come, they're going to be scattered and brought to naught anyway, because their intentions is not to gather Israel and to establish a work as far as the churches towards the kingdom of heaven for our people. They're not dealing like that. They are about attacking other people to get notoriety because they think that's what it's about. They want to get on a level to be recognized like other people. Low level. It's more about the self-pride and making themselves a platform on others than actually going out and doing some actual work. Setting up churches, setting up positions according to the churches, apostleship, setting up the works, bishops, deacons, elderly women, building the kingdom like Christ showed to Peter. Right? Now, there was some on the side preaching while the disciples were walking with Christ, and says, should we forbade them? Should we stop them from teaching? That's the one I wanted.
There's more here.
Yeah.
Verse 37. After this man rose up, Judas of Galilee, in the days of the taxing, and drew away much people after him, he also perished, and all, even as many as obeyed him, were dispersed. And now I say unto you.
See that? You had people who came up who drew people to them, who had notoriety and all that the Most High eventually scattered them to nothing. Why? Because what their teachings wasn't built on Christ, on the tenets of the gospel. If someone is just trying to get a camera for notoriety, eventually it comes to nothing, because what the majority of people will see what their true intentions are. Because what? Why? Where's your works when the camera's off? Where's the proof of your works? See? So eventually people will come around you and realize you're nothing but a bunch of talk. Because there's no actions in building the kingdom outside of the platform you made for yourself. There's no works when the camera goes off. And that's why I would never give any of these guys any attention publicly, because that'll be more attention than they're used to getting. See? But if I'm teaching on the street and they come up, yeah, of course, I'll deal with it swiftly with no issue. Okay? And it won't be like these little young guys. They're trying to usually engage to get some level of notoriety, then putting a title, Gathering of Christ Church on it. That's deceitful and wicked and evil. They know that the person they're talking to don't know about that information. Okay, read.
Verse 38. And now I say unto you, refrain from these men.
Refrain from these men, read.
And let them alone.
And leave them alone.
For if this counsel or this work be of men.
Because if it's of men, and a lot of these this is what YouTube has done. It has allowed anyone everywhere to so-called become an authority with a platform. Young brothers that don't know their head from a hole in the ground, because they found out they Israel under some group. Now they're going to come out and try to show, this is me. Let me flex who I am. But it's going to come to nothing. Read.
It will come to naught.
It will come to nothing. If it's not built on what? The tenets and principles of Christ and the doctrine that's laid out in the book of Hebrews. If it don't have those particular points of emphasis in at its foundation, yes, it will crumble. Read.
39. But if it be of the Most High, ye cannot overthrow it, lest haply ye be found even to fight against the Most High.
But if it be of the Most High, what?
Ye cannot overthrow it.
You can't overthrow it.
Lest haply ye be found even to fight against the Most High.
You'll be found to be fighting against the Most High himself. And that's why the Most High tell his teachers, leave them alone. Don't even engage them, because that's what they're looking for. They wouldn't get attention otherwise, folks. That's why they'll go to all these other platforms and all that to try to get some level of recognition, because no one is paying attention to them. Because why? They're not really doing the work. Their work is to be seen, trying to be seen. So you brothers and sisters, be very careful out there when you engage these brothers. If they find out that you're with the Gathering of Christ Church, I don't care who you run into, they're going to automatically try to talk to you on the side, find out what you don't know, then they start the camera and they'll try to gainsay you right there to sideways attack us. So don't engage them. Do us a favor. If you're with the church, learn under the church until the Most High allow you to become seasoned in these different areas, in these particular areas. And once you're seasoned, we'll send you out, and it still won't be to them, to talk to them. It'll be to what? To teach the kingdom of heaven and bring Jacob back to the Most High. It wouldn't be to talk to them. They already have some knowledge. Okay, you Israel and all that. We'll need to talk to you. You good. Let's go to our people. There's millions and millions of our people who don't have any understanding at all. Those are the people we need to be talking to. Not those who already think they know it all or have it all. Okay? With that, let's open it up for some questions. That concludes our lesson. That's part 3 of the Moabite stone in relation to the name of the Most High. And we'll be back next week with a regular lesson, but I had to deal with that. And let me put this out there too. I heard about it through an elder. I think Elder Gocc called me about it yesterday, about this young brother who allowed himself to be utilized publicly through one of these other groups. And I said, you know what? I'll teach on it today. Give people the knowledge of the Moabite stone as a warning reference to brothers and sisters, because this is how you're going to be used if you engage these people. You're not going to be, it's not about welcoming you and sharing on information you understand together. No one, we have never sent anyone out to gainsay these brothers on the street. So young people, let this be a warning to you. Don't go out there because they're going to use you and attack you on the information you haven't learned as of yet. So that's why I did that video today, to warn others. It has no, guess what? And I'm not going to look at the video, and I never look at any of the videos people put up titled Gathering of Christ Church, and they're not a part of the Gathering of Christ Church. I don't even give it 2 seconds, folks. So if anyone want to ask, did I look at the video? Absolutely not. It's going to just fade in the wind like any other of the videos where brothers go and find a young brother to try to gain some authority. They find a young brother that's with a church or with what they would call a camp to try to say that I got knowledge beyond your teacher. They're juvenile, folks. That's why I don't even look at the garbage. So if you want to know whether or not I seen the video, no. Matter of fact, the brother that did it, I've never seen one of his videos. But I bet you he can't say the same about us. I bet you've seen many of ours. Okay? So the whole deal is stay away from these guys, folks. Stay away from them. Let them come to naught. Or hopefully the Spirit of the Most High come in them and some light turn on to the point where they'll find some water and come to the light and be a part of the true work of the Most High. Okay? With that, let me open it up for questions here, Q&As. I thank the Most High that we don't have to go into the Moabite stone to show the true name of the Most High. I thank the Most High we don't have to go anywhere else but to the Most High's, directly to the Most High's mouth, the Bible, and his mouth speaking to Moses. You have these guys with books piled up here. There's thousands of words of Yahweh everywhere. We don't have to do that. Somebody asked me the Most High's name, what I'm going to do. Here's my response to that. You know what? Moses had the same question. Go to Exodus 3 real quick. Well, what is your name? Who can I say is being sent to Israel Who is you? You're the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. What is the name that I can take back to my people? I am that I am. See how simple that is, folks? And it's so deep for our people. The answer can be right in front of us the whole time, and we'll try to get so deep outside of the Most High's mouth, outside of his command. Isn't that how we got into such a state as a people in the first place? Instead of just accepting what he say, we'll take a stack of books and say, well, it says Yahweh here. On this record, it say Yahweh here. Well, what did the Most High tell you? What did he say? Is that so hard, Israel? Just to listen to what the Most High say and accept and follow that. Are we not the children of Israel? All right, let me go down here. All right. And I hope more so than anything that the brother who they utilize for their few moments of any, because I believe that they're going to get a lot of views just by putting the title on this thing. I don't know why I'm struggling with the word title here. By titling this thing, the Gathered of Christ Church. Automatically put GOCC, Gathered of Christ Church, or someone who's actually been working in your title, you can actually get more views. And that's what these guys have found, right? So I hope the brother they utilize would use this video and look at this, not to go back to those brothers, but to understand that they could have received the truth outside of that interaction. More truth than what you would have received dealing with that particular person. Right? All right, Elder Lloyd, let's go down the line.
Issachar 144, all praises be to Ahiah and the Thawada elders for the lesson. Let me see here. Focus. Shalom elders, are you aware of the mask?
Let's get this. Issachar. Let's get the full one. It says, Issachar 144, all praises be to Ahiah and the Thawada elders for this lesson. Wow. The Moabite stone only further proves that the Most High's name is Ahiah. Yes. Absolutely, because when you go into the Moabite stone, you get the history of the 10 tribes who brought in Yahweh to be worshipped, sacrificed to Chemos, started dealing with the 6-pointed star and all of that. Exactly. So they had the name of Baali in their mouth. And the Most High said in the book of Hosea, you shall no longer call me Baali or master. That Baali was the master, or who we know, Satan. See? He would become a husband to us. Through who? Through Yeshua, Christ, the anointed. And it would be Christ who would reveal the name like Moses revealed the name. And that name will baptize under and be saved. But the answer to your question, absolutely. The Moabite stone proves the name of the Most High is Ahiah. Okay. If you understand the narrative and time period and the story, the backdrop behind the Moabite stone, you receive that today. Right? Now let's go.
Focus. Shalom elders, are you aware of the mask that Gentiles have made to look like black men? They have created fake facial masks and hands that mimic a black person.
Yes, I found out this around what, 6 years ago, because there's not much really black on black crime going on amongst our people in proportion to how they're promoting or publishing it. So what the Gentiles are doing, and usually they use foreign agents to do this, okay, like Russians and other agents in collusion with the UN and American government. They'll have these guys from other countries and all that put on black gear and rob a bank or shoot a person to make everyone believe it's black on black crime, or to start a war against rival that would culminate amongst rival gangs, to keep the black on black narrative going, because they know by doing so it would lead to what? More bloodshed that they can promote or publish. That is true. Yes, we know about that. We know about the black mass and all that they're using to fuel the black on black crime narrative. So how do we combat that? Well, if we're not a part of the gangs, and if we're not dealing with criminality, they can't utilize, they can't come in and cause these infightings. Mm-hmm. See? So what should happen is, and I would pray that the Most High would allow this to happen, where all the gangs be dissolved. There is no gangs no more. No more Bloods, no more Crips. We're the children of God. We love each other. We're not going to separate ourselves amongst gangs anymore, because they're using these separations and divisions to destroy us internally. Dissolve all gangs. Get drugs out of our neighborhoods. You understand? Get any level of criminality out of our neighborhoods. Not separate on religious lines and gang lines anymore. No more fighting over a corner, so that we can actually see the enemy that comes within. In order to do that, we must seal up all the cracks within our communities. Mm-hmm. And the cracks are developed by us being divided under some title or lines. If we unite as a people under the Most High and take care of ourselves and correct the ills within ourselves, at that point we'll be able to see an enemy a mile away. We set up our own points of references and engagements in different scenarios, and seeing what's coming into our communities. I mean, it sounds like a pipe dream, but that's the answer. The answer to that, if you want to understand or stop the enemy, we must first solve what's with, the ills amongst us. Because the enemy can only do this because they see the chasm, the void. Mm-hmm. Okay, they see the criminality. They see the evil. So they'll come in to do what? Throw fuel on the fire. Okay, we see this gang is rivaling this gang. Let's dress up and put on a red scarf and shoot a brother in blue and just step back and see them just kill each other. See? What's next?
Shalom, shalom, Shabbat shalom, elders. Thank you again for the lesson. It is timely for me because I've had the name on my mind. I was reminded from my Hebrew calendar. The verse on our calendar for this month is "Be still and know that I am the Most High." So whenever I read that I am or I am, do these translate into a haya, a shah, a haya?
Not every time you read I am does it translates to that. Mm-hmm. So the answer is no. But right. Go on.
In those places where you see I am being used regularly, the Hebrew word is anya. Okay? Anya. Which simply means I or I am.
Yeah. Which gives more emphasis to prove that the Most High's name is I am. Ahaya. In an entirely different context than you and I saying I am. Okay? Go on.
Next, Truth Seeker 7. Shalom, elders.
Hold on. Go on.
Shalom, elders. The water for the lesson. Where does it specifically say that the six-pointed star is the image being referred to in Amos? The water for all you do.
That is a great question. You have to realize, folks, okay, like I said, I've been in this truth, I knew I was an Israelite since the early 90s, the turn of the 90s. And you have to realize, brothers and sisters, when I first had the truth, I walked around with a silver six-pointed star the size of my chest with a silver chain on. I was in charge of the garment department for years. And I would take a stencil and make six-pointed stars and put it on all the garments and all that. All right. I had no idea. But through years of working and studying, once I was beyond that place, I began to actually study what was in the Bible. And when I read that you shall no longer call him Billy, but Ishi, I started researching that. Eventually I researched that and found out, man, we've been worshiping another God as Hebrews and have taken on that as our modern day culture. You understand? Once we begin to realize we Israel, we take on those bad habits of the Old Testament. We equate those bad habits as Israel culture. I started realizing that. I'm like, hold up. This six-pointed star don't define me. So what I did was I did a research on Remphan, the star Remphan. Type it up in your computers real quick. The star Remphan and Chewin is a six-pointed star. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And I looked at my chest and I'm like, what are these so-called priests teaching me up in here? When I began to age, because then, let me tell you, when you learn, and we all are like this, we're like an open canvas, a clear canvas, and we trust our teachers. And I believe we should be that way. But you still should study to show thyself approved, and study, especially if someone is pushing something that you can't see in the Bible. So I was reading the Bible and I'm looking at all these six-pointed stars and I'm like, well, hold up. This must be in the Bible somewhere. Right? And I started equating my truth that I'm an Israelite with these images. So I did the research on it. And I had a book years ago that I have to get that was breaking down the worships of Moloch. The six-pointed star is the highest symbol for child sacrifice. Like King Misha did in that war against Israel. He sacrificed his son in that star, folks, to gain power. To try to gain power against his foes. It's high-level magic, folks. The six-pointed star, I did the research on it. Type it in star Remphan. It's a six-pointed star, brothers and sisters. So there is no Star of David. When they say Star of David, they're speaking of Megan David, a Jewish occultist. Okay, Megan David, a Jewish occultist of near our time. It has nothing to do with King David. There is no Star of David, folks. It's the Star of Remphan. It's a witchcraft symbol for child sacrifice and other witchcraft. The witches, sorcerers, all of them use it. Okay? What's next?
I am Judah 71. Great lesson, elders. Another thing that these groups have leave out is the true name was only in one location, Jerusalem. Could you read 2 Chronicles 6, 5 through 6?
Yeah, one thing they leave out, and that's true, that the Most High's name is only in one location of the Bible. So they can't say, well, Yahweh is written of 3,000 times or 6,000 times through the Bible, so it must be the name due to volume or quantity. No, it's where the Most High mentioned his name is the point. It's where he said his name is the point, because the Jewish people, well, later on began to exalt that name over our God. So what would the Gentiles do while we were asleep or in darkness? They would initially take out the Most High's name and replace it with their God, outside of where the Most High said it. Because you can't change his words. I am that I am is clear. And it's not Yahweh there. It's not Jehovah there. Okay? And the Most High is not a God that he should lie. And he doesn't change. He's not going to be Yahweh in a higher too. So don't go for that first person, second person garbage, because the Most High is not a person. He's outside of time and space. So you can't utilize that too, either. Read.
Here we have Judah tribesmen. Can you?
She said what?
Second Chronicles 6 and 5 through 6. It says, you want me to read?
And it says, the groups leave out true name was only in one location in Jerusalem. Could you read Second Chronicles 6, 5, and 6? Read it.
Since the day that I brought forth my people out of the land of Egypt, I chose no city among all the tribes of Israel to build an house in,
Yeah.
that my name might be there. Neither chose I any man to be a ruler over my people Israel, but I have chosen Jerusalem that my name might be there, and have chosen David to be over my people Israel.
Yeah, exactly. But it was there during the time of David. But what happened? The kingdom was split and we brought in Yahweh. So it's not there now. See? It was there under David. So Christ would do what? He would reestablish the kingdom like it once was under David. He would bring forth the name of the Most High and the understanding of who to get baptized under, away from the gods that were brought in the Old Testament after our fall, after David. Christ would now bring in that way, reestablish that old way. First starting with the Most High's name. That's why he told the Pharisees, before Abraham was, I am. Right? Come on.
Next we have Judah tribesmen. Can you please get a Levite brother who speaks Creole to recreate every single one of your lessons in Creole, please? It's severely needed.
Yes, we're going to work on that. Thank you. We're working on that.
Next we have Bankster Spankster. What does the 11-pointed star represent? That statute of Isis have at its base and sits in New York Harbor. Thanks for the wisdom and teaching today.
Yeah, but when you look at the heart of all these symbols like that, somehow in the center of it, it still makes out the 6-pointed star. I did the research on that. At the base of all these different symbols, you can find the star of Remphan within it. You have the 6-pointed star, and you have that infused with the 5-pointed star, which give you the 11 parts, the 11 points. Go on.
Truth seeking. Great lesson, Elder. Wow, this is the Holy Spirit because this was right on time. I have one question, though. What's the understanding that Judah and Yahwadah has Yahweh in it? Judah means praise God, the water for the edification in your work.
We break this down every academy, and it's simple. Okay? Elder Lawyer.
Yes, sir. The only similarity between Yahweh and Yahwadah is sound. When you're dealing with the etymology of the word Yahwadah, it does not go back to Yahweh or Yahweh or any name associated with Yahweh or Yahweh. It goes back to the Hebrew word Yadah, which simply means to praise. So Yahwadah means praised. Okay? Some people say praise God, that's fine, but the literal meaning of the word is praised. Not praise Yahweh, not praise Yahweh, but praised.
Exactly. So the key word within the two is Yadah, not Yahwadah, or God's name must be Yahweh because it's Yahwadah. No, it's Yadah, which is the root word for both, which is praise. That doesn't give any significance or understanding of what the Most High name is. Okay? It has no relation. But they will use the similarities to say his name must be Yahweh if Judah name is Yahwadah. That's like saying the Most High name was Judah or has some similitude to Judah when Judah didn't exist. Do you see that? So it's the word Yadah, which means praise, that's in relation to both. Okay? And there is a praise within Yahweh. People are praising Satan. Okay? What's next?
Shabbat Shalom, elders. A few months ago, I was on the train and I looked at this woman and she just started attacking me verbally. I could tell she was dealing with some spirits But how do I deal with situations like that if they come up again?
I would leave and go to another train.
Right.
What's next? Well, I would suggest you do that. If the woman want prayer or something, I'm not going to do that in public and all that. I would ignore her altogether in public like that. But if a scenario come in which a person needs prayer, then elders get together and pray on a person to try to help cast out the spirit. But with you, I would say go to another train or ignore it. Yeah. One other thing I wanted to mention real quick. Okay. Because I know this question is in some people's mind. Well, as Hebrews, we was calling on Satan in ignorance. So it's not like the Most High didn't receive our prayer or knew that we meant to pray to him. And I want to put that out there. In our ignorance, we use the names that were available. And that's why the Most High said, you shall no longer call me Belly. He knew we were trying to call on him, but was using another deity. I want to put that out there too. So I'm not saying that all the brothers and sisters in the Old Testament purposely were worshiping Satan. And I don't want that to be how this is interpreted. What I'm telling you is Jehovah or Yahweh is Satan, the Canaanite god. Okay? He was able to creep in due to our sins and exalt and set himself up within the temple of the Most High. So when we begin to pray to the Most High and didn't have and lost the name of the Most High, it's not like the Most High didn't hear us in our ignorance. So he says, you shall no longer call me Belly. So yes, we were calling him Belly. He knew we were calling him Belly. But he says, you would no longer call me Belly. But is she? I'm going to become your husband. I'm going to send someone that you can marry that will take you away from your connection with Belly or Yahweh. See? Because I know people are thinking that too, that we are just outright defaming those that call on Yahweh and all that. We're giving you the credible history so that you can research it yourself. To know that, yes, we went through a transition during our fall, but we don't have to sensationalize that in our awakening. That was part of our fall, calling on Bailey. Okay? Let's go.
Someone had a question. How did Cain die?
Well, there's different accounts of Cain's death. Okay? So usually what we stick with is the account that's in the book of Jasher.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Because Jasher gives you more so a more insight to a more insight into Genesis and the 5 books of Moses than any other record we've went into. So I know you're asking that because it's more than one account of Cain's death. But we more so lean towards Cain's death in the book of Jasher.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If I could mention that one actually it links to the story in the Bible concerning his death.
Exactly.
So that the Jasher is the more accurate version.
Exactly.
Next question. Let's see here. I think you can scroll down now.
There's more?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Question. Is the Targum of Onkelos and Jonathan ben Uziel on the potential accurate, trustworthy information?
Well, it depends on what you're looking into it for. It's a record that has historical value.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it has historical value when it comes to the what you would call the
commentaries.
Yeah. Well, no, when it comes to breaking down how Jewish people or Romans started dealing with their conversion into what we call Judaism, it have historical value in that on that level. But this is what I have to say. There's nothing that's right in those records you can't find in the Bible. Okay? It's not like they're going to show you some information that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise if you just studied the Bible itself. So from a historical standpoint, in the conversion of Onkelos and all that, it's historical fact. But a lot of that information also have Babylonian intrusion when it comes to certain laws. So when it comes to the laws that are right, that it breaks down, that's true. But we don't need the Targum and that other information for that. Stick with the Bible. If someone was to go into that information, I don't suggest you would unless you've been learned at least 5 or 6 years under the church. My suggestion. But if you're going to go into that, you filter that information through what you've learned in the Bible, not the other way around. You don't go to that to get information on how to break down the book. That's when you will begin to go off. Okay? But there's nothing in those records you can get that you can't get within the Bible. There's a lot of madness in it too. A lot of evil teachings in it. All right, what's next?
Lamel321, have you ever heard of John Ramirez or have had or have him on your show?
I've never heard of John Ramirez, no, but I'll take his name and look him up. Okay, I'll take his name and look him up. Hold on, let me look up for show. All right.
Edgar King, why are there trisex people or people born with both private parts?
Well, the scriptures explain that as hermaphrodite, or what you would call the days of Noah, when gods or angels slept with women and brought forth Nephilim. Okay? That's when it really began to, that's when that male-female thing began to really crop up amongst the people, the sons of Adam. Now, usually it's now through our modern day medicine and all that, where they'll do certain things to people, focusing on the women, and genetically begin to mess with the birth of children. So a lot of that is chemically induced, scientifically induced today to mimic the children that was coming through hermaphrodite before the flood. Okay? That's why I say watch what mothers, you notice when you get pregnant, they immediately want you to go and get you a doctor that you must check in with for the full 9 months. You have no idea some of the chemicals they're putting in you, what they're trying to shoot in you, the prenatals, which are really causing all types of birth defects and all that. So you have to be careful because we're in the days of Noah. They're targeting the women so that they can bring forth these types of beings. Okay, and a lot of this is chemically induced in what we eat and all that, and what they shoot in a woman and what a woman takes while having children. Okay, so I'm not going to just right out say that, okay, anyone that's being born like this is Nephilim or the children of Nephilim. That would be ignorant to say that, understanding they're doing a lot of things chemically also. But the having both organs does relate back to what was happening before the flood. That's the product that came from the disobedience. Okay?
Andy Levy, it's the last question here. We have a few people saying that you guys are opening a church in Orlando, Florida. Please inform. Great lesson notice.
We are opening a church in Orlando, Florida. Matter of fact, Sunday night I'll be calling Fresnel to book a trip to Florida, and while I'm there, we're going to be working on also the transition of the church. But I didn't want to do anything before speaking to Fresnel in detail concerning the bookings for us to come out there. So it's premature. I don't want to put too many things out right now, and I haven't spoke to the elders there about. So, but yes, we will soon be expanding the churches and setting up churches in the Florida area, outside of the church we already have with Elder Fresnel, and that will be happening soon. But we must first visit Elder Fresnel in that church, and then we're going to expand and begin to, immediately after that, set up churches in Orlando. Okay, with that, Shalom. Thank you for moderating today, Brother Elder Dell. And you brothers and sisters, stay prayed up, sin not. And another thing I would like to say is we thank you for all those who donate and support the church. And we suggest and we strongly ask you all that if you do have some help towards the work, that you can actually send under, and make sure you title it, or I keep on saying title. Make sure you write out Gathering of Christ Church. When it comes to any checks or money orders, you can send that with the name Gathering of Christ Church, please, going forward. All right. And that money will be used for the trips like the one to Florida, and to set up more churches and to do more work in your respective areas. We cannot do it without your help. For those who have been supporting the church, thank you. Okay. It couldn't be done without your help. You're dealing with the work, in areas you can by helping financially support the work. We thank you for that, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So we ask you to donate if you can. If you don't have it, I understand, but we're just going to ask you to send in your tithes, your offerings, just so that we can continue the work and expand beyond this. Okay. With that, I'm going to say Shalom. Stay prayed up, and sin not. We will soon see Zion.